So, as I reflected on the readings today from Isaiah, Hebrews, and Mark, an image of a map came to my mind. And this wasn't a map that was depicting mountains or bodies of water, but really it was a map that illustrated the landscape and the pathway to being a follower of Christ and a servant. In our first passage from Isaiah, we encounter the suffering servant, which is a prophetic vision of the Messiah who bears the suffering for the sake of others. As noted in Isaiah 53:10 through 11, it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer, and through his suffering, my righteous servant will justify many. And what's revealed here is a powerful truth. The suffering of the servant is not in vain, but it serves as a divine purpose. What Isaiah reminds us is that Christ's ultimate sacrifice was essential to God's plan. Jesus endured suffering and death not for himself, but for us. His suffering was an act of profound love, showing that true love and true service often requires deep sacrifice. And when I check my roadmap of servitude, I see that being a servant, it requires us to love. And being a servant, it requires us to sacrifice. And in the New Testament, through the book of Hebrews, this presents Jesus as our high priest, which is highlighting his ability to empathize with our weakness. In the verses 14 and 16, it notes, "We do not have a high priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in every way just as we are, yet he did not sin." And what this passage reassures us is that Jesus, though divine, fully understands our human experience. He knows our pain, our trials, our temptations, but his empathy is so deeply personal and experiential. And it's because of this, we are invited into a relationship with him that's marked by trust and openness. And we are able to bring our burdens and our full selves and be confident that we will be met with compassion and love and grace. When I check the directions on my map again, I understand that being a servant requires us to trust. Being a servant calls us to be open to experience, open to possibility, open to all. And simply, being a servant just asks us to arrive. In the Gospel of Mark, we find an important landmark on our roadmap and a powerful lesson in the meaning of greatness and servitude. When James and John request positions of honor in Jesus' kingdom, Jesus offers a radical redefinition of greatness. He says, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be a slave of all." And when Jesus calls us to be slaves to all, it is not a call to subjugation, but to radical love. It invites us to prioritize the needs of others, to uplift those who are downcast, and to offer our time and our talents. In doing so, what we create is this ripple effect of grace that can go in our church, in our communities, throughout our world. And through these acts, we become beacons of hope in a world that can sometimes feel dark and divided. We can be the light. In the Gospel of Mark, James and John ask Jesus how to become great. Well, Leave it to Jesus to transform their question into a lesson that redefines what greatness is and could be and should be. Jesus says, "For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as ransom for many." And by Jesus giving his life as ransom, what he demonstrates is the ultimate act of service, embodying the profound love and humility that define his ministry and could possibly define yours. These qualities should be influenced, and they should be modeled by us. His call to servanthood also invites us to examine our true intentions of service. As I checked the directions on my map once more, I learned that being a servant means serving without expecting anything in return. Being a servant means to serve as exemplified by Jesus. And being a servant requires reflection. Is the service for you or for them? And if it's for you, make it for them. Serving others is not always easy. It often requires us and myself to step outside of our comfort zones and set aside our own desires and ambitions. Yet, in these moments of selflessness that we encounter the true essence of Christ's love. When we serve others, we are not only uplifting them, but we are also transforming ourselves. And ultimately, in serving others, we serve Christ. And every act of service, no matter how small, participates in his divine mission. And if you need further proof into the power of service, just look at what we're doing here at Holy Communion. For me, when I come here, I am filled with love. Every person I meet here, I am welcomed by. The greetings, the handshakes, the hugs. I personally consider this place a home, and I consider its members my family, members like you. You're part of my family. But what we have happening inside here at Holy Communion, I know we can take and promote and provide outside of the walls of this building and into the community of Central Oregon, into the community of Oregon, and nationally in the world. So as we leave here today, I want you to ask yourself, how can I be a servant today? How can I be a servant tomorrow? How can I be a servant every day? How can I embody Christ's love in a way that transforms both my heart and the heart of others? In service, that's where we find fulfillment. And in our humility, that is where we discover greatness. God has given us the map, the tools, and the directions to guide our service and our faith. It's up to us to use them.